Welcome in, everybody. How's everybody doing here tonight, chat? For those of you new to my stream, my name's Airback47. I usually stream every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday on Twitch. Tonight, we're covering the new ship closed test dev blog for 15.6. This was released June 10th of 2026 of this year. All right, so let's start this thing off. Captains, to celebrate the summer, we have 4 exciting new ships coming to the game, along with some unique and interesting gameplay. We're also ready to reveal the statistics and the visuals for the Tier 3, Tier 4, and the Pan-American branch we announced previously. And it gives the name of the 2 ships right here. Malarkey, do you want to start off with this first little Tier 3 destroyer? Kind of looks cool.
Sure. So we've got the Pan-American destroyer. I'm going to try to pronounce it here, the Almirite Vallard. It's Tier 3. So it looks like it's the former Russian destroyer Kaplan 1. Commissioned in late 1917, the ship served in the Estonian Navy from 1919 to 1933 under the name Wamblengo, after which she was sold to Peru, named the Almirite Vallard, and the destroyer served for over 20 more years until the 1950s. So that's
goodness, they definitely got their money's worth. Yeah, they got their money's worth out of their hole, man. That haul, my goodness. Yeah, that thing had quite the career for a little tiny little destroyer. That's actually kind of cool. It's a Tier 3, so there's not really a whole lot. I don't really want to dive in too deep, and we can go over it briefly here. It is a Tier 3 destroyer. I think Tier 3 can be fun. It's not a tier that I'm gonna play like every day, but this is the start of the line, right? It's the introductory of things to come, right? So what you see here is the start of the line, and hopefully some of these things will carry on through. 6mm plating, that's funny. 9,300 hit points. I mean, this is just Tier 3 destroyer. It's kind of cool though. This is what kind of interests me though quite a bit here at the lower tier. What can the torps do? At Tier 3, you are facing a lot of bots. You know, there's maybe 3 to 5 actual human players on the other team, and it's kind of fun because when you play these low tier destroyers, you can get those really cheeky, like close in torpedo dev strikes, which is super fun. So at this tier, this is kind of what I'm interested in the most. You got 3x3 450mm torpedoes, maximum damage strictly 300, 5k torps, 45 knots. I mean, this is just standard Tier 3 stuff here. Maneuverability, it's kind of a cool little destroyer. I like DDs in general, regardless of tier, so I think it is definitely potential to have fun in this for sure. I really don't know what to say about it other than it's a Tier 3 destroyer. It looks kind of neat. AP shells. Yeah, see, this is something to take note of here too, though. Even at the low tier, it looks like an AP only destroyer, if I'm reading this dev blog correctly. Sigma 2.0, which is pretty decent. AP shells, max damage 1850, aerial velocity. So it looks like it's an AP only destroyer at Tier 3. So it's kind of cool.
If I'm not mistaken, they were talking about that whole line being an AP focused destroyer team.
Yeah, okay. So like I said, yep. So this is going to be the start of what you're kind of getting yourself into. So it looks like an AP only destroyer at Tier 3. Kind of fun, kind of cool. Tier 3 to me is not like super hyper competitive, but it's fun. It's fun, and it's a good introductory for newer players that are looking to potentially grind this line out in the future, which is kind of cool. All right, let's move on here to the next ship. This is coming up to the Tier 4 Pan-American destroyer. Oh god, here we go. The Siriato. All right, so Siriato. That's the best I can do, chat. The lead ship in a series of 6 destroyer designs and built in the United Kingdom in the late 1920s for Chile. Zero remained in active service for more than 30 years up until the 1960s. Wow, so they just ran these things to death, man. I mean, a lot of these countries like Chile and stuff, they definitely did not have the financial backing as like Great Britain or the United States to be cranking out new ships or buying new ships wherever they can. So I'm sure when they get them, they just do everything they can to keep these things going. And that's actually quite the career. I mean, 30 years of service, even at that. I mean, this thing was built in 1920. That's wild. So, you know, taking 1920s technology and running it all the way up into the 60s and making it work, I mean, that's pretty impressive. So let's check this out here. You go from 6mm plating up to 10mm. Okay, so we're gaining a little bit there. 9,700 hit points, fire durations 30 seconds, standard, pretty much destroyer. All right, artillery, this is what we're talking about. See, now we're moving up to 120mm guns. All right, 3x1, so it has 3 guns total, 3 turrets with 1 gun in it a piece. Looks like 2 are forward, which is actually going to be good. You can get to me, it looks like you might be able to get a little bit more aggressive with this thing, being that, you know, 2/3 of your firepower is directly forward. You can kind of point your nose and shoot, which is kind of nice. Main battery range 10.5, reload time 3.5 seconds. And all these values can change with, you know, commander builds, equipment slots, things of that nature too. Again, tier 4 destroyer. I actually like tier 4. If I'm going to play tier 4, I usually go to the Clemson. They call it the Clubson for a reason, right? But DDs are super fun to play at these lower tier kind of game modes and stuff, just because they're hilarious, right? Let's see, 180-degree turn time, 18 seconds, max dispersity. They're all getting 2.0 Sigma, which is actually really nice. And here we go, just another AP only destroyer, which is kind of cool. Max damage 2100, 850 meters per second. That's kind of cool. Torpedoes 2x3, 533 millimeter torus. Max damage 10,000. See, max range is 5.5. So this is on par with pretty much any other tier 4 destroyer you're gonna find in their tier, right? The Clemson has like very similar torpedo range, 5.5-ish, you know, 5-kilometer torus, somewhere around there. I think the Hopnik at tier 5 only gets what, like 3.5? Oh no, it's probably like was it like 4? It's like super short. Yeah, super short torpedo range. So, you know, this is kind of like getting it on par for, it looks to me like a balanced destroyer for her tier. It's kind of interesting that it's AP only, but if they give these things, if they give this line some decent ricochet angles, which I imagine they would, if they give it like Ben Yang-ish ricochet angles, I think the AP on this will be pretty brutal, especially getting into the higher tiers.
Not to mention, even the tier 3 and the tier 4s have a heal on them. Yeah,
it has a heal. Both of them have a heal. Oh my goodness, that's awesome.
Repair party's 48 seconds durations, so they've got 2 charges of a repair party.
Oh, down here in consumable. Yeah, my goodness, 2 slots of engine boost, repair party. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so you're getting a heal in these things, man. Oh my goodness. They're going to be super fun to play.
Yeah, that's just 3 and 4. I mean, if they continue that through the whole line, you could be one of the only destroyer lines that have an entire heal.
Why wouldn't they? If they're given a tier 3 and a tier 4, it's not like they're going to skip 5, 6, and 7. Can you imagine one of these DDs at tier 7, you know, with a heal? Like out trading like a Mahan? You know what I mean? Like, awesome. These things could go toe-to-toe with like a Haida. See, I'm wondering what the concealment's going to be when they start getting into that kind of tier. The only thing that comes to mind to me at tier 7, all right, another AP only destroyer is the Jupiter 42, and that ship is incredibly strong, not because of its firepower, it's just another random British AP only destroyer, but it's got 5.7 kilometer concealment and a bunch of burst fire smokes like the British smokes. That's what makes that ship incredibly powerful. If you give this thing a heal and moderately decent concealment that's somewhat on par with like the Jupiter 42, this line's going to be incredibly strong. So we'll have to see what they do. We'll have to see how they kind of go about doing things here. See, concealment detected, I see 6.3. That's actually pretty good that's really good for tier 4. So I would imagine, you know, granted, we don't know what the rest of the line's going to be like, but if you can keep their concealment around like 6 kilometers, 6.1 at tier 7, that's going to be like insanely good, because you'll be able to pick and choose your engagements. Like I said, the only DD at that tier you'll be able to outspot would be the Jupiter 42. So when you play DDs, your concealment is a weapon. So not only is it an offensive tool, it's an offensive tool. A lot of people just don't understand that concept, but it is. You know, if you can continuously keep another DD lit before you're seen, you pick and choose when you want to fight. You know, the whole time that other destroyer is getting shot at when you're shooting it, or when you're just doing nothing but spotting the DD. I'm kind of curious as to what direction this line's going to go as far as like concealment. I have a couple questions. Is it going to get improved ricochet angles because it's an AP only? These are AP only destroyers. I would imagine they would. It just makes sense. And what is the concealment going to be like? You know what I mean? Those are the two things that I want to know going forward with these two lines. And I think that if you can get those, you know, decent concealment with improved ricochet angles with this kind of AP, I would build them like a Fen Yang. Like, I don't even run IFHE on my Fen Yang. I build in a heavy AP. So it's just like, you can get this. Let's see, what's the max damage on the AP shells? 2100. Dude, 2100 max damage AP shells at tier 4. You run heavy AP on this thing, you can get that almost up to 2500. Like 24, 23, 50, you know what I mean? That's raw, just damage potential, man. I think this line's going to be a lot of fun to play. I think these are going to be dangerous destroyers. I don't think, you're going to have like crazy high damage numbers every time you play these things, mostly because you're not setting fires, right? So you're not going to get that perma fire, but it's just the raw damage output on these things that I think are going to be incredibly good. So I'm kind of excited about that. You want to cover the Pan-American battleship here for tier 10, Malarkey?
Sure. It looks like don't have an image of it here just yet, but it looks like it's the Pan-American battleship, the Perez Galacta. It's tier 10, so it looks like it's a hypothetical former British Lion class battleship that may have been sold to South America's countries after the end of World War II. So they're going kind of playing with that alt history kind of stuff. Yeah, the battleship would have been named in honor of the prominent Chilean naval commander of the second half of the 19th to early 20th century, Lindor Perez Galacta, looks like he was alive from 1854 to 1916. And it says, do you want a whole new way to shape the battle? Meet Perez Galacta, the first ship built around the new support consumable, letting you buff your allies or yourself. Combat instructions charged by supporting your team. Below average main battery performance, though with a decent reload and accuracy. So average armor and low HP pool and mediocre speed. So far, she's sounding a little on the anemic side when it comes down to battleships, but a lot of it is going to be about supporting your team more than being out there and being the front liner, really.
Yeah, I agree. I think you would want to play this thing almost like a battle cruiser, almost slightly behind your more tankier battleships, your German battleships, your like the Montanas and stuff that are kind of playing a little bit forward. I would want to play these things almost like working like cover, you know what I mean? Playing it like, I hate to say it, but like Marseille, you know what I mean? Even though it doesn't have the speed, it doesn't have it's nothing like a French battleship or a French battle cruiser. But what I'm getting at is getting something with kind of like low end armor on the forward end, you know what I mean? Something that gets farmed out and penned really easy with HE. But if you can position pretty well with this thing, I mean, I like the supports consumables, and they'll go into it a little bit more later on as we read down through this dev block. But the ability to put out fires, heal other ships, mitigate flooding and stuff like that, that's all fantastic. If you can position kind of like you would like a battle cruiser, maybe a PVO. I think a PVO would be a better comparison. You know what I mean? Kind of stack up on a rock a little bit. We'll have to see what their turret arrangements are on these things. But if you can position yourself to definitely support the TD at the start of the game. Think about it. If a TD has a bad trade at the start or eats some random torp and barely lives, trot that dude to heal. You know what I mean? Now you got something coming back for your destroyers. Be it all the heal up cruisers that are getting farmed out. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. I think this is going to be kind of cool. They say the guns have decent accuracy with a decent reload. Okay, I can work with that. Even if they're not the hardest hitting guns, as long as they're accurate, having the ability to get rounds on cruisers and have it stick is kind of like more important than, just raw damage output. Battleship players, I've said this before too many times on stream, the only time you should be shooting a battleship with another battleship is if you don't have a cruiser to shoot at first, right? So if it's going to be having kind of like lethargic guns to begin with, but they're accurate, I think cruisers should be your number one priority, and you're just sitting there supporting your team the entire time, which I think is great. Another scenario is kind of working with a push on the flank. Your tankier battleships are a little bit farther ahead. This thing's kind of following in behind everybody, mopping everything up. But, you get a sub on the flank or a Shimakaze that's torping your battleship, a GK or something that just ate a really bad torpedo salvo from a sub, giving some of that HP back, I think it'd be worth it. But we'll see what they go. I love the idea of support consumables. I think it's a great idea. Anything you can to encourage team play, I'm all for it. Which I think is great. What do you think about it, Malarkey? I think it's going to be really cool. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
I think the biggest thing that's kind of setting it apart for me, I remember this from one of the streams that they did on there, was that the support consumable is going to affect your teammate more than it's going to affect yourself.
Yes. Yep.
So it's really going to push people to say, like you mentioned, that option where maybe your friendly destroyer took a little bit too much damage. It's going to pay off more in spades to give it to him than it is to give it to yourself.
Yeah, and from what I understand here too, yeah, I don't have the exact values in front of me mean, maybe it'll show the different, see ship parameters. It says it doesn't give you the values of how much HP you can heal up, but I'm sure it's based on a percentage, right? Like if your heal gives back, say, just hypothetically saying it's never going to be this high, 25% of a ship's HP, for you, it'd only be like 5. You know what I mean? Something along that line. You're going to heal yourself up significantly less than you would your teammates. Do you want to continue reading down here? It might give you a little bit more information as to what they're talking about.
Sure. So what sets the Perez Galacta apart from her unique support consumable, letting her buff allied ships at range or even herself when the moment calls for it? She can reinforce a struggling teammate, boost a ship's firepower at a critical moment, or turn the consumable inward for a personal boost, albeit at reduced efficiency. Her 9 4x19mm guns aren't the most impressive at her tier, but she still delivers powerful salvos against broadside targets, making her a meaningful threat even when playing a support role. In terms of raw stats, she sits on the lower end of the tier. Her hull, armor, and speed are unspectacular, and her HP pool is the smallest among tier 10 battleships, making her positioning crucial. Stay close enough to support and buff your allies, but far enough to avoid the crossfire that quickly melts your health pool.
Yeah, see, this just is screaming battlecruiser. Like, the only thing that comes to my mind is, like, PVO. You know what I mean? That's just reading this, that's, to me, kind of probably be the best comparison to this thing. But, dude, 419mm guns, they're not small. Montana has 406s. You know what I mean? Granted, it's not the 457mm guns that a lot of these battleships are coming out with. But still, 9 419mm guns, was, say, Iowa dispersion. That's pretty brutal. You know what I mean? So I don't think this thing's going to be as lethargic as people are making out to be. I think it's not going to be a tanky ship. I think it's going to struggle to turn, kind of get out of its own way. You definitely don't want to be pushing with it. If they give it like a mediocre rudder shift, it's not going to be all dodged. You know what I mean? So, and if it has a low HP pool, you're not going to want to be pushing into HE spam with this thing either. So I think it's going to be really good at the job it does. And I think it's going to be pretty balanced for a tier as far as like damage output and things of that nature. But I love the idea of the support consumables. Given a reload buff is really nice too. Can you imagine like a Forrest Sherman, or a Barrows in a cap in a 1v1 with another destroyer, and you give that thing a reload boost? That's what that guy needs, man. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly,
it's just gonna be nuts. So I think that's gonna be kind of cool. I think that's gonna be fun to play with.
Alrighty, so the support-oriented consumable is a new type introduced in Close Test 15.5, 250th anniversary development blog. In short, the Perez can launch planes aimed at nearby allies that will drop a buff on them. The range is fairly limited, around 15 km, and the planes take a moment to reach their target. You can choose to buff one of 3 aspects of the ship: main battery reload, secondary and torpedo performance, or simply give them a healing buff to a ship in need. The real trick up her sleeve is the combat instructions tied to those same support-oriented consumables. Unlike most Pan-American ships, which charge their combat instructions through active combat with shells, hits, and potential damage, she charges hers very quickly by applying buffs to allies or to herself at reduced efficiency. Support your team at the right moment with good positioning, and you'll boost your allies and your own guns, letting you deal great damage for a short window. It all comes down to good timing and good game tactical skills. Please note the Perez Galacta is being used to test new features that may appear in upcoming ships. Depending on how well she performs as a playable concept, we will decide whether to make her available to players or keep her as an internal testing platform. Also note the visibility. This ship is still work in progress, and its final appearance will be ready at a later date. Yeah, see, I really like the direction that they're going with this. I hope this thing makes it to a game. It's going to be thoroughly tested by the time it hits the thing. But I mean, there's just so much stuff that stands out to me here. I really like that you can just buff the reload time of like a Marceau. You know what I mean? It's like, oh my God, throw a Marceau a reload buff, or a Colbert. You know what I mean? It's gonna be nuts. I think that's gonna be kind of cool. But they're encouraging that style of support role by, yes, it has a combat instruction, but boost your combat instruction or attain your combat instruction. They're kind of forcing you to use your support consumables to buff your own combat instruction. So it's encouraging that style of play, and I think that's kind of cool. I'm looking forward to seeing where they're kind of going with this. Let's get into some of the ship parameters. So all this stuff is subject to change. They don't even have a picture of this yet.
So a lot can change here. Armor 4.5, 32 millimeter plating. So pretty much any, Kurugamo, Akazuki, Kitakazi that's running IFHE will be able to pen this thing all day long. Hit points 68,000. Yeah, so that is low. Torpedo protection reduction 25%. Fire duration 60 seconds. So that's all standard battleship stuff. Main battery. Here we go. This is what I want to look at. 3x3, so 3 turrets, 3 guns apiece, 9 total. 419 millimeter guns, max firing range 19.2. Okay, you're not gonna have the ranges you do on some of the other tier 10 battleships, and they stated that. Honestly, it's gonna be pretty close on par as a max firing range of like the tier 10 Russian battleship. What is that? Why can't I think of it? What's the tier 10 Russian? Kremlin. Yeah, Kremlin only has what, like 18.7 or something like that? It's not a lot. So it's going to be on par with that kind of like short battleship range. Reload time, though, 27 seconds. That's pretty good. And you'll be able to get that down with running like Adrenaline Rush, running the reload skill on the equipment slot. So, you can get this thing down to a 24, 25 second reload, which I think is going to be like super cool. Turn reverse turning time and max dispersion, 252 meters, Sigma 1.8. Okay, so it's not great. It's not horrible. 1.8 is honestly kind of okay. I think the Massachusetts has like 1.7. The Ashikaga has 1.7. I think that's kind of normal. Honestly. I'm trying to think of other battleships and their respective Sigmas. I know the Beijing has like some of the best with like 2.0 at that tier 9, but that's like the most accurate battleship in the game. I think the Yamato has like 1.9. I could be wrong.
Yeah, it used to be a long time ago, it was 2.1, and then they slowly changed it because you could hit people from another game and it wouldn't matter.
Yeah. They did dial it back, but somewhere around, I don't have the exact values in front of me, but somewhere around like 1.9, 2.0. So having it 1.8 Sigma, that's not the best dispersion, not the worst. It just kind of is what it is. It's pretty decent. Combine that with 419 millimeter guns, that's actually pretty good. Max damage though, oh, look at that. That's low. That is low. So even though they're 419 millimeter guns, that's HE shells. Never mind. This is HE shell. This is what I want to look at here are the AP shells. Max damage 13,050. Okay, so that's not horrible. It's not great, but it's not horrible. Most of the time, you're not really shooting HE out of battleships, so you can, I don't want to say write that off. It does have its purpose, but your AP shells in a battleship is what you're going to be using 90% of the time. So 13,050, that is kind of on the low side for a tier 10 battleship, but the 419 millimeter guns, so you do have a little bit of overmatch potential against some other cruisers, and they don't look horrible. Secondary armament, max range 8.3, 8x2s, 133s. Yeah, just don't build the secondaries with this thing. It doesn't have the HP. You don't want to be pushing with this thing at all. It is definitely 100% not a secondary battleship. AWS, I mean, this is all kind of standard stuff here by the looks of it too. 11 kilometer AWS, so on. I'm not really going to get into that. I mean, a depth charge plane is a depth charge plane to me. Defense looks kind of average. Let's see.
The tricky part for me is the concealment. I mean, she's such a small ship, and it's still 15.4.
Yeah, that's kind of bad. But you can get it back, but not a lot. I mean, you're not going to get that thing under like 14.5. It's just not going to happen.
Exactly.
You'll probably have like 14.6, 14.7 kilometer concealment after you build it into concealment. That's really not that great.
And with her main battery range and combined with being kind of sticking out like a sore thumb, I see her being a target like nobody's business because she's got low health to begin with, not thick armor, and she can't reach out the same distance a Montana or a Yami's going to.
And she can't maneuver that great. You know what I mean? So, I mean, they said that right in the deadlock right there. Her rudder shift is going to be like mediocre. So it's like, you really got to be careful with that thing. That's why I'm almost thinking like battle cruiser-ish. Like play it like a PVO. Get on a rock, use your forward-facing guns. I wouldn't even think about trying to use my rear turret in that thing if I couldn't help it. You know what I mean? And just try to position along rocks where you can reach out with your support consumables and buff your teammates. You know what I mean?
Exactly. That's what, it makes sense why they might want to just leave her as internal testing platform instead of bringing her out to being,
and that is a real possibility. It's a real possibility that we'll never see this thing. So just understand that, chat. This is just some of the values that they were working at. I like the direction where they went with it. I think it's kind of cool, but we'll see what happens here. It is definitely going to be a test bed. It's going to be a test platform, and we'll see how it performs. All right, moving on here to the German battleship, the Friedrich Karl is how I'm going to pronounce it. A former French Richelieu-class battleship, which might have hypothetically been taken over by Germany in 1940 and completed by 1945, with all armaments replaced with German guns. So it's a Richelieu kind of looking thing. JB Richelieu with German guns. That's kind of neat. The ship inherited the name of an armored cruiser of the I don't know how to say the name. Marine. What do you get when you put a German armaments on a French hull? A battleship that mixes mobility with powerful secondary power. That's kind of cool. So I'm thinking like secondary JB-ish, you know what I mean? But if they give this thing decent, like actual turtleback armor, like German armor, see, the reason why you don't see too many secondary build John Barts out there is because the thing's covered plate to stern in 32mm plating. Like literally every HE shell at tier 10 pens the thing. So, I mean, that was fun back in like 2017, 2018. You could get away with running a secondary build JB, which was silly fun, like a secondary Flandres or something like that. But it just didn't have the armor now, I don't think, in the current game that we have to kind of tank it. So if they give this thing like German turtleback armor, decent armor, maybe like an icebreaker in the front with decent secondaries, you could absolutely play this thing really aggressively. Let's see what they got here. Powerful secondaries with access to manual secondaries. Let's go. Fast reload time on their main battery and all forward configuration. Access to hydro, so it does get hydro and engine boost. That's kind of cool. Strong protection against AP shells, but a deck vulnerable to HE and overmatch. Okay, it probably only has like a 30mm, like a 38mm deck. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. As is typical for German battleship, Friedrich Karl is fearsome opponent in close range action. Based on refitted Richelieu class hull, she carries two triple 406s turrets. Okay, so the 406s, they're not 380s, they're the 406s, in an all forward configuration with a very good reload. This lets her bring her full firepower to bear without exposing too much of her side at a cost of inconsistent salvos and below average accuracy. I mean, that's just German battleship to begin with, though. And if you're going to build into secondaries, you're not really going to be building in a main battery accuracy, right? So it just kind of is what it is. You can use her gun armament layout to your advantage for closing the distance while keeping all your firepower and show enemies where she truly shines, the secondaries. This looks fun to play, man. I'm liking the sound of that already. That looks hilariously fun to play. Her secondaries carry usual German HE traits, higher than average armor penetration at a cost for a lower alpha damage. Okay. Thanks to her secondary fire mode, you can aim a specific section of a enemy ship and aggressively blind fire into smoke screen. Yeah, so see what they're saying is you can target like the forward sections of the bow or the stern on, say, an American or French battleship where it's only 32mm, right? Where these secondary HE shells will pen that stuff all day long. So you can pick and choose what sections of the ship that you're trying to target, which is just typical of analytical secondaries. She is best played using her speed, agility to expose her sides only when it counts. Yeah, this looks cool, man. To me, it just screams like a secondary JB, but like better. You know what I mean? Like funner and better. Her armor holds up well against AP shells, while her citadel can be vulnerable at close range. Her spaced armor mitigates a lot of the incoming damage when angled. She does share key weaknesses with the Richelieu class, a 32, so it only has a 32mm deck, does not have a 38mm deck. Okay, 32mm deck that most cruisers can reliably penetrate. Yeah, they can. And that opponents with 460mm guns or larger, so Yamato, Incomp, Shikishima, all those can overmatch the deck all day long. So plunging fire will definitely wreak havoc on this thing without trouble. To support her short range gameplay, she has access to long range German hydro search and engine boost consumable will help flanking in position. This thing looks fun to play. Give a JB decent armor, you know what I mean? Manual secondaries and hydro. What's not to like? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
This thing just looks hilariously fun to play, man. And secondary JB is kind of fun to play in like operations and PB PvP mode, ASIMs, you know what I mean? That kind of thing. I think this thing's just going to be nuts. I think you're going to be able to get on the flank with this thing, have the biggest smile on your face as you're just pressing W. It looks hilariously fun to play. 4.5, 32 millimeters. So it's kind of, it's again, you know, susceptible to larger caliber guns and most cruiser HE spam. 63,700 hit points. I mean, that's kind of tier 9. That'd be low for tier 10, but it is a tier 9 battleship, right? Is it tier 9? Mm-hmm. It's tier 9. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so that sounds normal. Torpedo protection radiation, 35 seconds. Standard battleship burn time. So here we go. Main battery 2x3. So you get 6 guns total, 406 millimeter guns. Max range 20.8 kilometers. Reload 23 seconds. That's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. Maximum dispersion, see 1.8 sigma. I mean, that's just normal. That's just, for a German secondary ship, that's not abnormal at all. Let's see, HE shells, max damage. I mean, blah, blah, blah. We care about the AP. AP max damage, 12,700. Initial velocity, 810. So they're kind of a little slow, but I mean, it's just German guns. It's interesting though that, well, I mean, it's the Frederick de Grosse has 406s. You know what I mean? You can choose between 406s and 420s, so it's not abnormal to have 406 millimeter guns on German ships. There's just not a lot of them that do. Usually a 406 millimeter gun you find like on like Allied, you know, not necessarily Axis ships, but they do exist. They do exist on German ships. Secondary armor at max range model 8.6, maximum range auto model 0.8, and you can increase that too. You could probably get that up to like, you know, with building and commander skills and stuff like that, probably like 11.5. 7x3 150s. Throw IFHE on this, it'll pen 38 mil. Well, hold on, you might not need IFHE. I don't think you need it. 7x3, 150 millimeter reload time 4 seconds, max damage 1700, chance of causing fire 8%, armor penetration capability 38 millimeters. You do not need IFHE on this thing. You don't need it. It's just going to be raw damage output. That's it. It already crosses the 32 millimeter threshold. That's really good. But yeah, this thing just looks fun to play. It looks silly fun to play. I mean, AWS 10 kilometer range. I mean, I'm not really going to get into that. AA, okay, whatever. Maneuverability. So max speed 32 knots. So yeah, just French battleship, and that's without engine boost. That's without engine boost. So I mean, this thing is gonna be fun to play, dude. Detectability range by C 16.2. That's not great, but it's a secondary battleship, and I mean, it's just, you're gonna be pushing with it anyway. So who cares if you're spotted? Rest of the values are here. Let's see, consumables, reload. So that just goes into your normal hill and stuff like that. That looks, what's your take on that thing, man? To me, that looks silly fun to play.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be something where you're going to be able to kind of press W on a Jean Bart, but you're going to have a lot of secondaries to back you up.
Yeah, yeah.
So even if someone does get behind you, because that's kind of like the kryptonite of the Jean Bart, is if anyone gets to your side or behind you, you're toast. At least now you got some secondaries that are going to really riddle them pretty good.
Yeah. The Jean Bart is a good battleship for what it is. It's only got 380 millimeter guns, but it does have a reload boost and it does have speed. So, you know, an engine boost. So, you know, the JB play style is just kind of get on a flank, point your nose forward, and press W and S key the entire time. Where this thing, well, you can't really push with it. And the secondaries on the French battleship don't really pen anything. And the JB doesn't have the armor to tank. It's covered stem to stern in 32 millimeter armor. So you get this thing, give it better armor, better secondaries, better main battery, and it's with hydro. It's like, okay, you can actually push in this thing like every JB player wishes they could, you know? So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I just think this is going to be a really good ship. I can't wait till that hits the game. You're going to see a lot of them, and it's just going to be a blast to play. All right, you want to go on here to the Pan-Asian Destroyer De Tong. I have my thoughts about this thing, and this one looks fun to play. But go ahead. You go ahead and read this one off, Malarkey.
So we've got the Pan-Asian Destroyer, the De Tong. It's going to be tier 8. It's a hypothetical ex-Soviet destroyer, a Project 30 BIS ship rearmed with experimental quadruple 100 millimeter BL-127 mounts as her main battery. The BL-127 mount was developed in the late 1940s in the USSR, but never saw service. So the destroyer is named after a major city in Sanax province, which was an important military stronghold in northern China during the Ming Dynasty. Can't decide between starting fires or punching through armor. With De Tong, you'll be able to do both at will. So fast-firing main batteries, so great shell velocity. Its alternate firing mode that has massively increased her HP penetration, strong torpedo armaments, average speed, health pull and concealment, and smoke generator with limited amounts of charges and long reload times.
Okay, so let's talk about this a little bit first, just before we get a little bit further. So, I mean, looking at the HE penetration on 100mm guns, typically it's not that great. If you run IFHE, though, think of it as like most of your IGN destroyers on the Bergamo line. When you put IFHE on a 100mm gun, it'll give it above the 32mm armor penetration threshold, which this would do. However, it has an alternate fire mode that massively increases our HE potential. So you don't need IFHE on this. The way I read it, you don't need IFHE. And her AP looks like it's really good too. So I wanna continue on with this here. Let's carry on, because I want to continue off of that here in a little bit. Go ahead.
All right, so the Dayton is the definition of versatile destroyer, built around an unusual main battery of 2 quadruple 100mm turrets. On top of that, she has access to 2 firing modes that let her change the nature of her damage. Her standard mode is fast firing, high damage per minute spammer, letting you start plenty of fires in a short window thanks to a high rate of fire. You can also use her full AP damage per minute against broadsided targets, especially against broadsided destroyers, and deal penetration damage against cruisers and battleships by aiming at the top of their belt under the superstructure. In this mode, the ship will have low HE pen, so she'll struggle to damage most hulls directly with her HE penetration.
Yeah, right. And that's typical with pretty much 100mm guns too. But you know, something to think about too. Not only can you turn on and off the amount of penetration those rounds can have, think of it as like the Barbiano, right? The Barbiano has an alternate firing mode where if you select it, you'll get higher penetration values but a lower reload speed. This is not any different. It's carrying on. But what people need to understand about 100mm AP, when you're fighting a destroyer with, say, gearing, okay, you switch to AP, that ship has 127mm guns. Unless you're shooting like a Kaba that has a 50mm plate, for the most part, you're just going to overpen every single shot. You're only going to be doing 10% of your max damage values against another destroyer. 100mm guns don't suffer from that. Their AP is heavy enough to cause max damage because your max damage with AP is significantly higher than your HE, but unlike higher caliber guns, they don't overpen, okay? So if you get a broadside destroyer in this thing and you switch to AP, you will rip that destroyer apart. It's brutal. So I think this is a very, very versatile destroyer. Not only can you switch your HE shell penetration values when you're farming like a battleship or a cruiser, you can also turn that off, get an increased reload, and rip DDs apart with this thing. So I think you can play this ship very aggressively with an insanely strong main battery. I think she's going to be good. And again, if they give this thing like Fen Yang ricochet angles, it's brutal. When I play Fen Yang, a Fen Yang is a unique ship, right? It's a Pan-Asian destroyer that also has 100mm guns, but its HE will only pen 17mm. So they try to get you to build an IFHE. I don't. I run heavy AP and treat it as an AP only destroyer because, again, for the same reasons that I just stated, you will rip DDs apart. And I do every time I play the thing. So if you give this ship those characteristics, I think there's not a DD in the game that's going to win a gunfight against you with a tier 8 in a 1v1. I mean, you'll just shred it. Even French destroyers, if you're connecting with them, you'll just rip them right apart. So I'm really excited about this. Go ahead, Malarkey, if you want to finish up this segment.
Sure. So her alternate firing mode greatly increases her HE penetration at the price of longer reload times, allowing you to trade damage per minute and fire starting capabilities for more consistent HE damage. To make the best of the damage, the first firing mode should be used to force your enemy to use their damage control, and then switch to the alternate firing mode where you can secure 1 or 2 permanent fires to deal damage with pure HE penetration. You can tweak her further by taking inertial fuse or HE shells, making her damage more consistent across both modes, and letting her clear that 32mm threshold in her alternate firing mode.
Okay, so they said it right there. In the alternate fire mode, if you want to cross 32mm, you need IFHE. Okay, they just stated that. I was hoping that wouldn't be the case, but it is. Honestly, man, I mean, yes, it's fun to go out and farm battleships and destroyers. Neat, but that doesn't win games. What wins games is winning the 1v1 against the other destroyers, having influence over the game, right? Map control, spotting. So to me, I'm looking at this thing, I would skip IFHE, run heavy AP, and actively hunt destroyers in this thing. That would be my play style. But she's definitely very, very versatile. She would cover multiple different play styles, and however you choose to run her, I think she's going to be a lot of fun to play.
Okay, so she also carries a solid torpedo armament, even if its range is shorter than compared to her peers. She keeps the same balance in her speed and concealment for the tier. Both are good enough for comfortable gameplay without being exceptional on their own. Overall, she performs as a flexible destroyer, switching firing modes to adapt to the situation in front of her. However, her close range engagements are limited by a small number of smoke generator charges with a fast dispersion time and long reload. You'll have to choose between using the smoke aggressively to farm damage or keeping it in reserve as a disengagement tool. So sounds very British, kind of.
Yeah,
British
it does.
Recool.
Yeah, I'm excited about this thing. I think this thing has a lot of potential. I think she's going to be really strong. I view this ship like as a DD hunter killer, like straight up. To me, that would be my job if I was to play this destroyer. That would be my play style. I would actively hunt DDs with this thing. So I'm super excited about this. I like that, you know, it does have a little bit longer reload on the smoke generators, which is fine. I don't believe in farming with a destroyer. I think it has its place. When you already have the map, you're trying to mop up a few ships. You know, your team has a massive advantage. Yeah, smoke up, farm the ship that can't drop off. You know, late game. But, you know, early game, mid game, I mean, I really don't believe in trying to like farm damage. At that point, you should be trying to control the DDs, kill the DDs, get the caps, provide vision for your team, all the things that are necessary for your team to set them up for success for a victory. And, I like the idea of having those short duration smokes because you can disengage. If you get a bad trade, you find yourself in a 2 versus 1 fight, or the DD has a lot of cruiser support behind him, you can break off real quick. So that's really cool. I think this is really good. Let's look at some of the ship parameters, and all this stuff is subject to change too. It's in testing, but I like the direction that they're going with this. For an app plane, 19mm, so it's a standard DD for a tier. Hit point 17,200, so not bad, not bad. Main battery 2x4, so you get 2 turrets. 2 turrets, like small one. We're kind of getting the trend with that. Owen, you know, similar to that, you only get 2 turrets, but 4 guns per turret. 100mm guns, max range 12.8, and you can adjust that based on your build. Reload time 3.6 seconds. That's really good. That's really good. Combine that with adrenaline rush and reload. I wouldn't be building in a range with this thing because I'd want to be hunting DDs. I'd want to keep my range as short as possible. So if I need to disengage, my balloon of my main battery isn't going to go out and keep me spotted further out for longer. I mean, that's just how I build it. But that's actually really strong. Decent reload. Honestly, your range is fine. 100 minute, let's see, degree turn time. And it is not too low. Oh my God, look at this. 2.0 Sigma 2, guys. This thing's going to be silly accurate. Silly accurate.
Not to mention, I did the math on it. And even if you go to alternate firing mode, it takes it from 3.6 to 4.4 seconds.
Yeah, that's still not bad.
On alternate mode, you go up to 30mm a pin, and it's still 4.4 seconds. So it's really not terrible.
Yeah. See, this is the choice that you would have to make here. Max damage for HE shells. And this is very Fen Yang-ish. And I stated this earlier. The Fen Yang with 100mm guns can only pen 17mm. What does every DD in the game have for armor plating at tier 9 and tier 10? 19mm, right? If you want to just be able to out trade a DD, you're not even going to be able to pen a DD with this thing with 17mm. Okay, you have a choice. You can either run AP at that point and hope for the best, or build an IFHE, which would give that number above 19mm. Then you would have a decent HE fighting thing. The way I would play this ship, and I know that's tempting. I know IFHE is really tempted on this thing, but look, you only have a 6% fire chance. So if you throw IFHE on this thing, that cuts it in half. So now you only got a 3% fire chance. Yeah, your HE can work against other destroyers, but your AP is so good. If I was building this thing, I would run heavy AP. And if I had to use my HE against a destroyer, switch into the ultimate firing mode and get your pen above that 19mm threshold, I wouldn't even touch IFHE. They're trying to get you to do that, and it's tempting, and you can. That's 100% a build. My play style, especially with a Fen Yang, I don't even touch my HE. I don't care it has HE. I treat it as an AP only destroyer, and I am very successful in that thing. So I think this is going to be good. I think this is going to be kind of cool. Max damage 18,050. Now remember too, if you build in a heavy AP, you can get that up to like 2,100, I think, or pretty close to it. So this with a 3.2 reload, yeah, that's gonna be that, with AP that doesn't overpen, it's just gonna be pretty nutty. So I mean, that's a choice that you're gonna have to make as a player. You know, you're gonna have to build your ship to your own personal play style. But me personally, I would just run it as a heavy AP and treat it as an AP only destroyer. Personal preference. And if you need to fight a DD with HE, just switch. Even though it increases your reload, it's still pretty good. You're still on par with every other destroyer at tier 9 for the most part, with the exception of Gruligan, Friesland, Kitakazi. You can still hold your own in a gunfight with that 4.6 or 4.5 or whatever the reload was. So, you know, with the alternate fire run, which gets you your penetration above 19mm. So I know it's a lot to kind of like take in, right? But it's numbers game, man. It's a numbers game. But if you cut a 6% fire chance, which is already really low, it's you down to 3%, you're going to have like 5 fires the entire game with this thing. If you'd have like 350 main battery hits with like 4 fires. You know what I mean? So just understand that. Yeah, and here it is, ultimate fireman mode, main battery reload time plus 23%. So I mean, you could do the math on that, 23 percent times, 3.6, 4.4 seconds. So that's like, yeah, that's fine. HE shell armor capability plus 70%. Yeah, see, just because it has this alternate firing mode, I wouldn't build in IFHE. That's just my personal preference. But yeah, that's a choice.
You have IFHE built in right there.
Yeah, you do. Right.
Why don't waste the captain points?
Right. It shoot AP at a destroyer until the thing angles, and when it angles, hit your alternate fire and finish them off with AG. To me, that's a no-brainer. But it's, again, that's a choice that you're gonna have to make with your own build. Torpedoes, they don't look like anything like crazy impressive. 8-kilometer range, yeah, definitely not a torpedo. 100% a gunboat through and through. Let's see, you got 1 launcher, you get 2x5s, 3. Okay. Speed 56 knots. Ugh. Yeah, definitely not a torpedo.
Like smoke torpedoes, basically.
Yeah, spammy, kind of throw them across a cap. Area denial torps, self-defense torps, however you want to call it.
Yeah.
Definitely not a torpedo. Depth charges, we're not going to go into that too much. AA defense, it doesn't look like crazy. I wouldn't say it's like Holland or Marceau or Smallland. Definitely not on par with that. Average AA for a tier. Shut your AA off. You don't have to worry about it. Maneuverability. Let's go. 36.5 knots. Okay, so it's not super fast, not super slow. Turning radius 660 meters. Okay. Rudder shift time 4 seconds. So that's DD. Might be a little sluggish in a turn, but for a DD that has that much damage output, I mean, that's a way of balancing it. I don't think it's horrible either. Detectability range, yeah, it does. See, this is the thing.
She's basically Soviet destroyer, so she's got all the characteristics of a big Soviet destroyer.
Yeah, Kaba, Delny, right. Concealment is also not that great. Detectively by C 7.2. So you're going to be outspotted by pretty much every destroyer in this game. You could probably get that down to like 6.6, maybe 6.8. Probably 6.8 is what it would get down to. Maybe 6.6, 6.7, but your concealment's definitely not that. But what I'm getting at here is that thing has so much damage output potential. It doesn't matter if it's getting outspotted, because even if the other DD is trying to pick and choose his fight, if he chooses to fight you, you're still gonna rip it apart. So it's not great. A good DD player would just keep this thing lit. It wouldn't even try to fight it. It would just let your teammates behind you do the work for you, right? But it's manageable, if that makes any kind of sense. Oh, let's see here. But that is tough. That is a tough concealment to work with at tier 9. Yeah, see, this is just your regular gunfire and balloon. Let's see, consumables. What do we got for consumables? I'm kind of interested about that. Damage control party, 2 slots of smoke generator. So I would build superintendent and heavy AP. That's what I would do. I wouldn't build IFHE, but that's just my personal preference. I would skip IFHE, build superintendent to give yourself a 3rd smoke. And well, it comes with 3. So I would give myself a 4 smokes or better. And heavy AP is what I would do. Then slot 3 engine boost, maximum speed. So okay, 3 charges of that. You would get up to 4 or 5 charges of engine boost, probably like 4. Reload time 120 seconds, so that's not that bad. Run time's also 120 seconds. That's actually pretty decent. So that looks like a really fun destroyer to play. I'm interested in it. I think you could play insanely aggressive with this thing. And I wouldn't treat it as a farmer. I wouldn't be running into range with this thing. I wouldn't treat it like a Kaba. I would not treat it like a Downey. I would treat it as a very aggressive DD hunter killer. I already know how I want to play it, and it looks like it's going to be insanely fun to play. Moving on. Pan Asian Cruiser Tejong. Okay. I'll start off with this one, then maybe have you finish it on Malarkey. Let's see. A hypothetical ex-US cruiser that could have been built in the 1940s as a possible predecessor of the Charlie Lima 154 class cruiser design. After the end of World War II, the ship would most likely go into reserve, and later in the 1950s could be sold to one of the US allied countries. The ship named after one of the famous rulers of medieval Korea. Okay, from the genre predecessor and father of King Sejong the Great. Okay, that's cool. Looking for high risk, high reward challenges? This ship is for you. Specialized playstyle is built for veteran captains. So they already said that like you're gonna have to like really know how to position. Fast firing main battery with high damage per minute. Alternate fire mode with improved ballistics, but with a very short range. See, that would work good at like dumpster and a DD that gets spotted. Long range deep water torps. Okay, so Jananish with good damage per torpedo. I wonder if they're deep water torps. They are deep water torps. It says it. Yeah, so that's gonna play like a Gian. Access to report parties, valence radar, so it does get radar, and engine boost consumable. Low armor and low HP. So full bearish with a radar is pretty good. Jananish with a radar. Doesn't look like it has smoke. Tejan really plays as 2 ships in one thanks to her alternate fire mode that drastically changes her playstyle. In her standard mode, she's a comfortable mid-range cruiser who loves working from behind islands, very much in the spirit of Atlanta. Okay, leaning on faster reload to rain endless stream of 127mm shells on her enemy. In this mode, she excels at holding positions, countering pushes, and helping your team defend objectives. Yeah, so it's going to play like an American light cruiser. Adopted a defensive position, hide islands, and support your team, and coordinate with allies and destroyers to make the most of her smoke screen. So she does get smoke. That's cool. Smoke and radar, really? Did I read that correctly? Plus deep water torps? Okay.
Well, she's got damage control, repair, engine boost, and radar, so she doesn't have a smoke.
Okay, so I did read that incorrectly then. Adopt a defensive position behind islands to best support your team and coordinate with allied destroyers to make the most of their smoke. So basically, a destroyer, I see what they're saying now. A destroyer would drop a bead of smoke. You would drive into that, use his smoke. Smoke and radar. I do that all the time when I play my div mates. For alternate fire mode, she turns into a short-range destroyer destroyer hunter with flatter shell arcs at expensive long-range reload and very short 9-kilometer range. Yeah, that's really short. That matches surveillance radar. So she's only got 9K radar. This mode enables aggressive push, best executed when you can limit her exposure to a small number of targets at once. You'll be able to easily push destroyers in and out of range of caps. Yeah, see, this would work really good combination with like a gearing. You know, gearing has decent smoke, push up, get that thing really close to a cap. You know what I mean? Have a gearing drop a line of smoke. Now you got an insanely awesome DD killing cruiser behind you with radar buried in your smoke that you just dropped them. You know what I mean? So I think that ship is going to be really good at doing that, and that's just at the start. Granted, you'd have to be mindful of other radar on the enemy team, right? If you get too close, then you're kind of SOL, right? So, I mean, it does, I do understand how they say that this is going to take a little bit more of an experienced commander to be able to pull this thing off effectively. And I think a lot of other factors are going to match into it too, like matchmaking, the map that you get, you know, is it going to be a heavy cruiser fight? Is it going to be a heavy battleship fight? Is there going to be a heavy DD fight? You know what I mean? Things of that nature you're just going to have to be kind of mindful of. Backing up both firing modes is a powerful deep water torpedo armament with long range, great speed, and good alpha damage, giving her supplementary deterrent against enemies that try to push your team's cap. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty good. As typical for a light cruiser, she has thin armor, low HP pool, and no defensive consumables beyond her repair party. She has no tools to hide if she can't stay unspotted, making open water positioning particularly dangerous. I think it's going to be strong for what it does, but at the same time, you are going to have to play pretty heads up with this thing. That's kind of cool. Let's see. I'm kind of curious as the range of what the deep water torps are going to be. 4.5 millimeter plus 16 millimeter plated. Oh God, that's a very, very light. Dude, most destroyers at tier 10 have 19 millimeter plate. Let that sink in, Chad. Hit points third.
The destroyer we just read about, the Teon, has enough pin.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. That's funny. Yeah. So this is it. It's screaming like Colbert-ish kind of play style. Hit points very low, 30,700. Fire burns, cruiser burn time, main battery 6x2, 12 guns total, 127 millimeters. Okay. Maximum range 14.7. Oof. Yeah, they're not kidding. When they say you're going to require an experienced commander, you're really going to have to, if you want to play this thing like really effectively, you're really going to have a very good understanding already on how to play a cruiser. And honestly, cruisers are an incredibly difficult class to play. So I think it's going to be matchmaking specific. And it's going to be one of those ships where you're going to have 5 mediocre games, and 2 of those games you're probably going to get dev struck, and then you're going to have this one monster game, right, where you get 250k, and then the next 6 games you're going to be lucky to break 90,000. You know what I mean? That's just how this ship's going to be. But it looks fun. If you like playing like cruisers, I think this is definitely going to be right up your alley. Chance of ascending fire 9%, armor penetration 21 millimeters. So it's just screaming light cruise. I'm looking for the torpedoes. Torpedoes, okay. 4x4, okay. Max damage 17,900. Max range 16.5. Wow. So basically 16.5 kilometer deep water torps. You got gearing torps that are deep water. That's actually kind of cool. What's the concealment on this thing too? Let's see. Yeah, that's just 1.5 kilometer detectability by your torp. So these things are just going to be right on top of unsuspecting battleship or cruiser. Deep water torps, you're not going to be able to torp DDs with it, but yeah, that concealment's really good. I mean, that's just standard deep water torps anyways. Any deep water torp in the game, most of them have 1.4. Depth charges, AA defense, damage shells, maneuverability. This is what I want. Concealment 10.2. Okay, not too bad. Detectability after firing guns, it'll bloom out to your main battery. That's normal. It looks cool. It looks kind of fun to play. Like I said, if you're a light cruiser main, if you're a cruiser main, I think this ship will be right up your alley. If you're somebody that plays battleships all the time, you want to bring a cruiser out for the fun of it, I think you're gonna have your work cut out for you in this ship. But it's we'll see. You know, I wish everybody the best of luck and hope it works. But looks kind of fun. It actually looks really, really fun here. Consumable damage controller party slots to repair, engine boost, and 9K surveillance radar. That's kind of cool. Radar duration 20 seconds, reload time 120. So that's kind of like, it's not as good as like typical American radar, but that's still not bad. I mean, what was the Des Moines radar? Yeah, no, it's pretty close. Des Moines radar has what, 25 seconds? What is the Des Moines radar?
Yeah, I'd have to double check, but yeah.
Yeah, me too. So it does have decent American radar, so that's not too bad. 3 charges, okay, cool. You can boost that if you decided to run Superintendent. I don't know if you'd want to. That'd be a choice you'd have to make. I'm not an expert to be giving any kind of like commander builds for cruisers, but it looks like a typical light cruiser. Super squishy. Under the right circumstances, you can perform be very effective early game, working in conjunction with another destroyer like a Gearing or say a Ledge Mod Hirugamo that has smoke that lasts for 4 minutes, right? Put this thing in a smoke that lasts for 4 minutes with 9K radar and that alternate fire that'll dumpster any DD in the game. I think you could get the quick upper hand on an early cap in this thing with the right circumstances, right matchmaking, the right map, give with the right destroyer that knows how to DD, right? You know, so it's going to be very circumstantial. I think a ship is going to be very circumstantial, but it looks fun. It looks really fun.
And then I did some math on the smoke fire penalty. So worst case smoke fire penalty, you're looking at 9.5 with the 14 kilometer, but that's worst case. Usually it'll be better because she's only got 127 millimeter guns.
Yeah.
So best case scenario, you're looking at that is what, 55%?
Yeah.
Best case, so you're looking at 6.6 on concealment for your smoke fire penalty. And then if you switch down to the 9s, you're in 4 kilometer range.
Yeah, so that's it. It would excel incredibly well at dumpster and other DDs in conjunction with smoke from another DD. And that's, yeah, if you get 4 kilometer firing range or smoke firing penalty, that's not bad at all. That's incredibly good. Granted, you can only shoot 9 kilometers, but that's the point. So it looks cool. It looks really cool. It is an awesome looking ship too. Definitely very American looking. Tall, very design, kind of Woosterish design. I like it. Looks cool. Pretty looking ship. And it's got 16.5 kilometer deep water torps. That's nuts. So let's finish wrapping this up real quick, but let's see. We'll go up here. So yeah, there's a lot of cool things coming to the game. This German battleship looks incredibly fun to play. Basically beefed up JB that's just better in every way. This destroyer, I'm really liking this thing, the Dayton? Yeah. I'm gonna say Dayton. That thing looks really fun to play. Insanely fun to play. I can't wait to just... I'm gonna build a heavy AP and rip apart every DD that I find. That's what I'm gonna do in this thing. But this cruiser looks kind of cool too. So that's 4 new ships coming to coming to testing, guys. And all these values are subject to change. Okay, I mean that's why they test it. So you know, this is new content, guys. I think it would be kind of cool. Let me know in the comment section below what you think, what your favorite ship out of this list would be, and how would you build some of these ships? I'm curious as to what your builds would be. So throw that in the chat below, the comment section below. And again, thanks for watching, everybody. My name's ThereBack47. I usually stream every Friday, Saturday, now Sunday on Twitch. And be sure to sub to me on YouTube.